Hello and welcome to the Anxiety Project channel. Today's video is all about health anxiety. Now, I suffered from health anxiety for a very long time. It took over my life completely. It almost ruined a relationship. It made my family life more scarce, right? I was more internal. I was completely internal. So my family life was very stressful. It created tension and arguments, and it created separation in my family. Also, health anxiety kept me in a chaotic state. I was in a chaotic state 24/7 all the time. And my life felt like it was out of control and I couldn't get a grip on it. So that's what health anxiety did to me. It was absolutely brutal. But before I get into what health anxiety is, I want to talk about what health anxiety is not. Health anxiety is not a mental illness. I remember going through anxiety and seeing billboards and signs in the bus stop saying, mental illness is everywhere. And there would be a guy in a construction uniform, and, other signs would have like a nurse on it or something like that. And I don't believe that to be the case. I don't believe it's a mental illness. What happens is someone's life has gotten so out of control that they can't seem to get a grip on it, that everything is just so chaotic to them and it's pushing them down and they don't know how to deal with it. So they turn to a therapist or a coach like myself, and they're like, Brad, help me overcome this challenge that I'm facing. So, and I always notice that they're in a chaotic state. They're in chaos, and there's not enough order in their life, so they don't know how to handle the chaos. I do not believe it to be a mental illness. I call it wrongful programming, or too much chaos and not enough order. Health anxiety is not the end-all be-all. You might have grown up with parents or guardians or kids or whoever that tell you, you can't teach a dog new tricks. Or they say, life is just unfair. Life is just misery. Whatever it is, they ingrained these beliefs so far within you that you grew up with this perspective of the world, this limiting perspective that they put into you. As children, we are like sponges. All of the incoming information gets ingrained within our unconscious mind. So we start to walk around with this perspective of the world that has been ingrained in us by other people. But in fact, these beliefs are not true. Our brains are actually neuroplastic. This means that we can rewire the brain pathways and loosen our grip of others, so we can get rid of trauma. We can get rid of negative beliefs. We start ingraining new powerful pathways. The other ones disappear. And we have this new outlook on life. We have new values, new beliefs, right? Health anxiety is not a sign you're going insane, because it may seem that way. It certainly seemed that way with me. I felt like I was loosening my grip on reality, and I was falling into like this madness, right? I felt like I was crazy and an outsider, and I'm the only one like this. But in fact, when the amygdala is activated, the fight, flight, or freeze response, this fear response, once it's activated, it takes over all other brain processes. It takes over. So that means it has detected a perceived threat. So there may not be an actual tiger in front of you, but something in your environment has triggered that activation, right? So now it may seem that you're going crazy, that you're becoming so detached from yourself, but that's because it's responding, right? It's preparing the body to fight or flee. So you might seem like you're going crazy. That's actually a natural bodily response. Health anxiety is not rare. It's not rare. 1 in 5 people suffer from anxiety. Looking back at my childhood, I grew up with 4 friends that were suffering from anxiety. I don't know if they still are now. I know there are many people in my life that I recognize suffering from anxiety, but growing up, I was hanging around friends that were suffering. So unconsciously, do you think I was taking in their habits and beliefs and perceptions of the world? Definitely. And do you think that their perceptions and beliefs triggered my anxiety later on in life? Sure, to some degree, because I took on their beliefs, because I respected them, right? I respected their values, and I respect everybody, of course, but I mean, like, I really modeled after these friends, and that served me in a very negative way. Now, later in my life, when I was going through anxiety, I was all of a sudden like taking on their perceptions. I remember having their voices in my head, and I'm like, where did their voice come from? It's because I was spending all my time with them. But it's not rare. It's not rare. 1 in 5 people suffer from severe anxiety. Looking back, I remember a lot of my classmates, a lot of my friends, relatives, family, they were suffering too. What are the common habits health anxiety sufferers do on a day-to-day basis? The first one is touching parts of their body. I used to do that all the time. I was checking for moles, for cancer. I was checking cuts for, and checking in the mirror to see what this lump is. Or, I was touching a pain in my side constantly, entertaining that sensation, entertaining the emotion, right? So I was constantly touching my body, making sure I am okay. Like, oh, there's the pain there. Oh, I hope I'm okay. It was just a bad habit that kept my sensations alive. It kept my anxiety alive. Another bad habit is constant doctor visits. Do you find yourself going to the doctor a lot? And this was me. I would go to the doctor, and my doctor would be like, Brad, everything checks out. We did the tests. You're okay. And I would be like, good. Relief. I'm happy. An hour later, I feel the sensation, and I know it's something. So I don't believe the doctor now. I feel like I'm physically ill. I feel like I'm dying, and the cycle continues. I end up back at the hospital getting more tests done, blood tests, scans, whatever it is. Do you find that you're going to the hospital or the doctors a lot because each time you feel a heart palpitation or the sensations, you immediately think heart attack, and then you call up the paramedics? And that leads us into the next habit, which is reassurance seeking. Do you find yourself constantly talking with loved ones about your sensations? Because that was me too. I was always trying to, get that positive reinforcement, like I was trying to get that reassurance all the time just so I could feel better. It was a habit, a very, very bad one. And so it kept my sensations alive because I would constantly talk about my sensations to people. And, that also strains the relationship. But as a health anxiety sufferer, you're not looking out for the relationship. You're looking out for you. You're looking out for your internal self, right? Your being. You're afraid you might have a physical illness. So you keep your loved ones close. You call them up saying, what if it's this? What if it's that? What would happen if this happens? And they tell you everything's going to be okay, that you're okay. You feel good for a moment because you trust them. They're your loved ones, right? But then moments later when you're alone, you call them up again. You're very dependent on them, right? So keeping the habit alive. Another habit is Googling symptoms. I did this all the time. I would be concerned about a physical sensation or pain, whatever it is. I would Google it, and what do you know? The worst thing comes up. Headache equals brain tumor, or this pain in the side equals kidney disease, whatever. And then you react to the worst one. And do you find that you always react to the worst one and not the most mildest one? Because you're already looking out for the worst one, right? Because you believe that, after all those doctor visits, all that reassurance seeking, it has to be the ultimate end-all be-all disease. Cancer, which is not end-all be-all, by the way, but you believe it to be, you think it's that. So when you Google it, you see it, and you're like, yep, I have that. Definitely have that. And you're strengthening that belief. You're strengthening your sensation. You're keeping your health anxiety alive by reacting to the answer on Google, which is not really the answer, but you think it is, right? So what causes health anxiety? Trauma. Past trauma, recent trauma. Trauma causes health anxiety. Someone's life has gotten so out of control, right? Health anxiety happens when their life is just way too chaotic, right? So now they have this trauma within them that's in the unconscious mind. What is the unconscious mind? The unconscious mind is our deepest level of programming. It runs us on automatic, right? It runs us automatically. And it's where trauma and repressed memories are stored. It wants the best for you. Because don't you find that when you're walking around during the day, a past memory, a past traumatic event pops up in your mind? That's the unconscious mind telling you, here's this memory, here's this traumatic event. Please deal with it. Release it from the body. But then, obviously not knowing how to deal with it, you push it back down. And it keeps the energy in your body alive, right? So the unconscious mind runs on habits. It stores memories. It does all of these amazing things for you, but it's a matter of how do you take care of the unconscious? How do you take care of it so that it benefits you, right? And I'll get into that after I talk about the causes. Another cause would be not trusting your own body, not having the knowledge of what these sensations mean, and thus you think the sensations equal a serious illness, something serious that's just keeping these sensations alive, right? So this trauma is from the unconscious. You may have gone through experiences from your past where you've been around adults as a kid, in the sponge phase where all of the information gets stored within your unconscious. You know, people's beliefs, their values, the people you've looked up to. If they had poor values, well, then you're just going to get them, right? You might have grown up with relatives or family members who suffered from health anxiety. So you picked up their habits, you picked up their ways of thinking. So now as an adult, you're going through the same thing, mirroring your past relative, right? Mirroring your mom, mirroring your dad, sister, brother, whoever it is, you're mirroring them. So now you're walking around dreading and looking at the world through their eyes, right? That's very important to understand too. You might have witnessed a family member get ill, sick, or you've gotten sick in the past. You've gotten better, or they've gotten better, they passed away, whatever it is. You went through a traumatic event in regards to health. So now you're walking around concerned about your health, whether you're okay, whether if that's going to happen again, or whether you're going to get that illness. You're walking around with a limiting belief, right? So there's multiple things that cause health anxiety, but overall your life is just way too chaotic. There's too much chaos, and then there's not enough order, right? You need order so that you can handle the chaos, because there's always going to be chaos in life. But when you add that order, you can handle whatever chaos comes your way. So how can we overcome anxiety? How can you specifically overcome anxiety? Well, first things first is get yourself knowledgeable. Not knowing your body and the sensations and what it means, and not knowing the anxiety response is not that good, because you're not understanding why you're feeling the way you are. So get yourself knowledgeable. You know, get yourself knowledgeable. Understand the body. Why is it reacting this way, and what causes the sensations? It's a natural bodily response from the amygdala. That's relieving to know, right? And model after somebody. Model after someone who's gone through the challenges you currently are going through. Model after someone. Learn from them. Do what they do. Act like they act. Do the routines they do, right? That's important, because if you model after the right people, your life will change. You're just going to pick up on their ways of speaking, their habits, you know, their mannerisms, whatever it is. You're just going to pick up on it. Do different routines than what you used to. You knowing the unconscious mind runs on routines. Do new routines that will benefit your higher self, right? You're stuck in anxiety, or you feel that way at least, and you want to change. Well, taking medications and doing the same things you do day in and day out doesn't help you, right? Because there's no progression. Happiness comes when you're progressing somewhere, when you have a goal. So make the goal getting free of anxiety, getting better. So move away from that old you. Do things that your old you didn't do. I started to read. I started to meditate daily. I started to get more spiritual. I started to pay attention about the foods I was eating. I was practicing CBT techniques. I was modeling after people, and that started to strengthen new pathways. So after a month to 3 months, I started to pick up new habits automatically. I started to think differently and act differently, because I was progressing in a direction. I was moving away from that old me. That's the thing. That's the key. You can't just stay still and stay in one position and expect everything to change. There's too much chaos there. So you have to learn how to deal with the chaos by developing a routine, looking up to different people, Replace television with reading books. Do relaxation techniques. Do things that give back to you. Like have hot baths with salts and, stretching routines, yoga, start exercising. Do things that your old you didn't do, right? And you'll get to the place you want to be. Once you see that you're progressing, that you're moving away from that old you, happiness will come. Happiness will come, because that's what happiness is. It's that dopaminergic feeling of moving towards something that you didn't think was possible, right? That you thought was unattainable. But once you start moving towards something or someone that you really want to be, then you will get that dopamine rush. You will start feeling good about yourself, and then you will start to trust yourself, right? So health anxiety, also known as hypochondria, is an obsessive and irrational worry over one's own state of health. Thinking you actually have a physical illness. And so, in the end, do what I've been telling you in the last little bit. Start moving away from that old you to the more empowering you. And I promise you will see a difference and a shift in yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's video. Do not let anxiety define who you are, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.